At noon tonight, the St. Louis County Council voted against a resolution honoring the life and legacy of conservative political activist Charlie Kirk.
It came after a spirited night of debate as residents packed the county council chambers in Clayton. Fox 2's Max Deeknight joins us live from the county headquarters. Max, a lot of passion on both sides of this debate.
Yeah, Mandy, surely that's right. People really did pack those county council chambers this evening. Those in favor of the resolution really felt this was more about protecting and promoting the freedom of speech, while those against it felt this was an inappropriate way to elevate someone who was not an elected official. A packed crowd in Clayton Tuesday night as the St. Louis County Council considered a resolution honoring the life and legacy of Charlie Kirk. Passionate residents on both sides of this issue made their voices heard.
Charlie Kirk gave me my voice. He taught me it was okay to think a little bit differently than other people.
This resolution being requested is more of a dog whistle than something well-deserved. To honor this request is to violate the tried and true criteria for such a resolution.
Out of all the times for us to come together and say that shooting a man in the neck is wrong, this is the time.
Charlie Kirk lived by the sword and he died by the sword. Charlie Kirk is the biggest scumbag on the face of the earth.
Republican Councilman Mark Harder introduced this resolution. He says it's meant to honor Kirk's legacy and promote freedom of speech and condemn political violence.
Violence of any kind, political or otherwise, is not to be tolerated in this country.
The St. Louis County chapter of the NAACP, though, condemned the resolution, saying while they condemned the violence that ended Kirk's life, quote, Mr. Kirk's public record is defined by rhetoric that undermines civil rights, dismissed the struggles of marginalized communities, disrespected African-American women, and spread division. The Ethical Society of Police also condemned the resolution, saying in part, quote, taxpayer-funded agencies should not be in the business of legitimizing hate, disinformation, or political extremism. Harder says he feels those against the Kirk resolution Tuesday night missed the point.
I think this is a moment we need to reflect, and we need to see why we can't talk civilly to each other and how we can still disagree without being disagreeable.
And I just got off the phone with Councilman Harder. He said he felt that some people who were against this prejudged the resolution and basically argued against it under an umbrella of misinformation. But he did say he was pleased to see how many people showed up tonight, both for and against his resolution, saying it showed that freedom of speech is still very much alive, a small victory amid what he calls a battle to protect the First Amendment. Reporting.
What's up, everybody? This is Mr. 100K, a day one of the video here with 100K Paralegal Services. Today, we are talking about St. Louis County, which is, of course, in the state of Missouri, rejecting the St. Louis County Council, rejecting a resolution to honor Charlie Kirk, who was killed about a week ago in a shooting in Utah. Now, this is kind of funny. A Republican by the name of Mark Harder, you know, he's a Republican councilman out of St. Louis County named Mark Harder, and he's the one who called on the resolution to be, to be validated by the council. And it was rejected. You know, the fans came out, the community came out, the citizens of St. Louis County came out, and a lot of them, and it seemed like it was a lot of it was along racial lines. A lot of them rejected it. A lot of them rejected it. It's like, why would you even consider want to honor this man? He wasn't a politician. He wasn't an elected official. He was nothing. He was a guy who had a podcast, who had an organization that pushed conservative values and had a lot of things to say about a lot of people, a lot of negative things to say. Typically, when we see politicians get behind people, they usually, at least the smart ones, they don't usually get behind people who have such divisive rhetorics on print, in the newspaper, in media, on YouTube, on all social media platforms. So for a Republican or anybody to get behind this guy to try to put out this stupid resolution, I just don't understand how any legitimate politician would want to get behind this guy. This guy fanned the flames of racism and bigotry, knowing the consequences, knowing the energy that's already in the air. Why would anybody get behind this guy? I don't understand. I'm not Republican and Democrat guy. I keep telling y'all I am independent. But one thing I do know is that if you got common sense, you would know to stay far away from this particular guy as you possibly can. How can you get behind a guy who has said the things that he said about civil rights, about blacks? And that's really what I'm talking about. I don't really care about the stuff he talked about gays and things like that and transgenders. Nobody cares about that. But knowing the history that blacks, people of African descent, have had with this country, well before this country was even called the United States of America, well before this country had even been, been 40 states, before this country was even thought of being called a country. Knowing that history, how can you ever align yourself with a man who undermines the plight of Black Americans? That's all I say. I could get, it is not even just about slavery. Everybody know how I feel about slavery. Slavery was a horrible thing, but, whites, Europeans are not the first or only people to engage in slavery. My issue is the acts after slavery, because I don't think slavery was based upon race. It became based upon race because they saw who was the strongest, who was this, who was that, and who was the smartest. Because, blacks, Africans were known as farmers before they came to the United States. They had good irrigation systems. They had a lot of positive things going on, and they were used as cheap labor, just like anything else. Steal the intellect, use them as cheap labor, and basically exploit them and take everything for yourself. That was the name of the game. It is my contention that slavery was not the worst part of history in the United States when it comes to Black people. The worst part has been the almost 200 years after slavery of marginalization, of second-class citizenship, of targeted policing and things like that. There's a lot of things that have happened since slavery ended almost 200 years ago that has made the consequences of that very, 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 very bad in the community. And a lot of those things reverberate even till today. So for a guy like Charlie Kirk to come along and fan the flames of racism and bigotry and discrimination and undermine civil rights and things like that, this guy was a complete loser, and he's gone. He's gone because he was out there fanning the flames of hatred, and eventually that hatred came to get him. It may have been God. I believe it was God. It had to be for him to operate the way he did, all the money he had coming in, for a man to just, a white guy at that. He never talked about how white men were a threat to him. He always made it seem like Black people were a threat to him. Crime or Black violence rates and things like that. He never even addressed those things. It's funny, the things he never addressed were the things that actually ended up coming to take him out. The most ironic situation I've ever seen in my life when it comes to a politician or a guy who's in politics like this. It's just the most ridiculous thing I've seen in my life. But Charlie Kirk, this resolution in St. Louis County, tried to put on the books, and thank God it was shot down. I thank God it was shot down. Nobody should honor this guy. Like I said, the police union, they was like, hey, we're not getting behind this guy. The Ethical Society of Police, an organization representing primarily Black St. Louis area police officers, when they said that, he spread harmful rhetoric and misinformation undermining civil rights, they said taxpayer-funded agencies should not be in the business of legitimizing hate, disinformation, or political extremism. Our government must remain in a space where all citizens feel respected and protected, not one that uplifts voices working to divide us. So they were completely against him. And I'm happy that this particular organization, stood against it. And I hope everybody takes a stand against this guy, Charlie Kirk. This guy was a complete loser. I don't care how successful, how much money he made at 31. He knew what he was doing. And I'm happy that, things came back to bite him in the long run, because he definitely didn't deserve a resolution. Tell me what you guys think. Do you think St. Louis County should have honored this guy? Should they have honored this guy? As a matter of fact, think about this. Missouri was, a slave state. It was admitted, it was admitted as part of the Missouri Compromise of 1820. So it was a slave state. And even down the road, it has a lot of divisions with Missouri, between Missouri and Kansas. and Nebraska, a lot of divisions as far as would slavery or should slavery be allowed in Missouri. Missouri, of course, was above the latitude line in which slavery typically was not legal. But Missouri, of course, was one of those states in which it was legal above that latitude line that the Missouri Compromise discussed. But Missouri, even to today, has its divisions, strong divisions along racial lines. And, for St. Louis, which is on the east side of Missouri, for St. Louis to come out and say, hey, even though we're home of the Dred Scott decision, which a case that had never been overturned, of course, we still are going to not support this. The citizens did not. Thank God that the council ultimately decided not to support this resolution. But tell me what you guys think in the comments. Should St. Louis County have rolled with this guy? Should they have honored him even though he wasn't even an elected official, politician, or nothing? Or is there insistence on claiming this is about First Amendment and honor him for his First Amendment? Is that just a cover for really saying we are co-signing a lot of things that he stood for? Because there are a lot of other people that you can stand for or support who've died, who said a lot of great things and had the First Amendment behind them. A lot of great people. Why pick a guy who, you use the First Amendment, but you push racism, you push misogyny, you push division, you push discrimination. You said a lot of bad things. Why would white people, or anybody for that matter, get behind this guy? It does not make sense. Tell me what you guys think in the comments. Mr. 100K a day. Till next time, y'all. I'm out this piece.